Hello everyone, welcome back to the Loony Bin. My name is Loony, and I want to talk about the whole drama. Well, not really drama, more like a conversation that I think is happening within the VTuber community because of what occurred at the Streamer Awards. Now, VTubing as a whole has garnered some side-eye by people who don't necessarily enjoy watching a person portray a character, a virtual character, whether it's an anime style or an animal form or in some form of way a virtual character, and watching that on YouTube, as some sort of content, or considering it as the same level as like someone who just watched someone be face camming something, whether it be a game or like playing music or something like that. And a lot of people look at VTubing as cringe, the best way to put it, as some have used. I think that VTubers as a whole has garnered some hate, or garnered some, meh kind of reaction from many different people online, and from people who don't necessarily watch VTubers and watch other YouTube format content. And I think the Streamer Awards showcase just exactly how we are essentially getting VTubers viewed as. A lot of the stuff that happened at the Streamer Awards was kind of mocking VTubers, and to me, it's just as someone who enjoys VTubers and enjoys VTuber content, ever since I started watching Kizuna Ai back in like 2019, then transitioned over to more Hololive, and been watching other VTuber content as well, from Nijisanji to indie VTubers. I feel it's kind of a deja vu all over again, because I was around the 1990s when anime was seen as cringe by almost everybody who was not really interested in anime, and I think at some point during the mid 2000s to early 2010s, anime has gotten more mainstream, to the point where, like, if you know someone who watches anime, they'll probably be cool with it. There will still be people who still see it as cringe, of course, but I think that it's a largely more accepted form of entertainment that people consume, and you don't have to be like the most incredible anime expert to enjoy it. Where in the 1990s, it was kind of like a hidden hobby thing that you try to avoid, getting other people to really get involved, or like try to not let people know that you watch, because you'll probably get bullied, or, called cringe, or like just, you'll be seen as like a weirdo. And I was considered one of those weirdos, I'm not gonna lie. But I think VTubing is entering that sort of same thing. And one of the biggest things that occurred at the Streamer Awards was the VTuber of the Year award. And while there were some really good VTubers nominated, most of the drama comes around the winner of the VTuber of the Year, which was a content creator known as Burnt Peanut. And Burnt Peanut is essentially a peanut with, I'm not sure exactly how he's doing it. From my understanding, it's some sort of Snapchat filter, or some sort of filter where he puts his face over the peanut and basically uses that as a way to engage in some sort of content creation, right? I've seen some clips of him, and it's not my cup of tea in terms of content, but I could see why people would like that kind of content. By the definition of what a VTuber is, he definitely does fall on the line of what a VTuber is. A VTuber is essentially a virtual YouTuber. A YouTuber who uses some sort of model, some sort of character, whether it be a PNG, an actual model that is rigged, or some sort of just animated creation, or just something that you created virtually to put onto the screen to have you play as. The best example I can give to people who may not really understand what VTubers are essentially kind of like wrestlers. If you've ever seen like any sort of WWE match, AEW match, or any sort of wrestling match, you know that there are people who play certain characters, certain personas. The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin, John Cena, Roman Reigns, CM Punk. And a lot of these personas are just characters that these people created to perform for us for entertainment purposes, and they live and die by that persona. They don't necessarily represent the same thing of the person behind that persona. Like, if a wrestler is a mean dickhead, that's not the same type of personality the person behind that character could have. He could be the nicest person in the world, but he could play a dick on, TV for our entertainment, for storyline purposes, for that kind of stuff. VTubing is essentially like that. It's someone taking a persona, but instead of, being like a real life thing, like, someone in WWE or a wrestler, they use a character model of an animated character, whether it's the anime style, or they could even use an animal character, or even a PNG, and just provide entertainment that way. And there are unique ways that VTubers can create content that someone like me, who is more of a real life, person, content creator, would not be able to do, And it is a certain type of entertainment that is not for everybody, of course, and that's obvious because not everybody would like certain content, right? And I think Burnt Potato's win at the Shuma Awards, he technically does fall in line. And what I found the weirdest thing about the whole situation, and not the fake false picture of what Hololive, was, because for some reason they used a content creator and used them as the face of Hololive despite not really being involved in Hololive at all. And it's the way he accepted the reward, and it's him basically saying like, oh, look at me, I am not a VTuber, but I beat all these VTubers. You spend all this money for a model, and me as a peanut using this Snapchat photo or whatever, just beat all of you and your favorite VTuber content creators. Now, my understanding is that is a bit. That is a joke. That is something that he does quite often, right? And I can understand that. Like I said, he's more likely playing a persona, and that's not exactly who he is as a person behind the camera. Maybe he is. I don't know him that well enough to really determine that. But my problem isn't really like what he said, is just why. Why would you say that? I get it, it's probably a bit and it's a joke, but like, jokes are so subjective, and sometimes people take jokes literally. Like, people will either find it funny or not funny. People will sometimes find jokes offensive or not offensive, right? And that's basically him saying that essentially kind of just like shits on VTubing in general, and shits on a lot of these VTubers. Now, I know Iron Mouse and even Chibi, one of the biggest VTubers on the on YouTube and on Twitch and stuff like that, congratulated him and told everyone that don't take it too seriously, and I get that. I just want to know why. I don't understand why we cannot just accept things without putting others down, even if you're joking. I've seen that a lot in terms of just the social media space in general. I've seen that in gaming recently with like Expedition 33 fans, and very specific fans, not all fans of course, talk about Expedition 33 as this godlike game, and then shit on Final Fantasy or another turn-based or JRPG game just to prop up Expedition 33. I'm like, why? What all that does is make you look bad and makes people not like or want to try out the game even more. The game that you love so much. I don't understand why we have to essentially drag something or like put something down in order to prop something that you enjoy up. Why not just say what you enjoy? We have to create this hatred, this kind of hate atmosphere, or this hate agenda just to prove a point. If you need to prove a point and you're doing it by hating it, then maybe you don't really like the game itself. Like, I don't understand that, And of course, it also goes both ways, where Final Fantasy fans could hate on Expedition 3 because it's not Final Fantasy, or stuff like that. It could go both ways. Same thing with this situation with Burnt Peanut. I just think that there was no reason for it at the end of the day. Like, I'm not offended by it. Granted, I'm not a VTuber, and people who are VTubers might be a little bit more hurt by it. Just hurt by the Stream Awards giving him a VTuber of the Year nomination, despite there's so many other VTubers who are out there, right? Burnt Peanut is technically a VTuber by definition. And while many people view VTubers slightly differently, similar to how like when people think of, or at least this was back in the day, I don't know if it's as much common as it is now, but like people would say that, oh, why are you watching cartoons whenever they refer to anime, right? And then people will argue like, no, anime is anime, that they're not cartoons. By definition, they are cartoons. They're Japanese cartoons, thus anime. It's a certain style, sure, but it still falls under the cartoon format, just a different style. That's where we are in like this VTuber space, where people have this definition of VTubing, and anything else that doesn't fall under that is not really VTubing. By definition, like VTubers like Burnt Peanut and even Annoying Orange back in the day would be considered VTubers. It's not this large model, it's not this, anime style model, or like this PNG type of thing. Even PNG tubers are seen as not VTubers at all, because you need to have like an actual 3D moving model. And to me, it's just like, wow, it's so weird to think this, because they all fall under the same definition of what a VTuber is. And I get the frustration from the VTuber side. I get it. Trust me, I really do. I enjoy VTuber content, and I understand why people will be upset over it. I just don't understand why Burnt Peanut would say that, even as a bit. Like, maybe it's his way of creating content, maybe it's his way of doing things. If Iron Mouse and Chibi are both, vouching for him, then that is what it is. I'm not going to let it bother me too much. We're entering a point in the VTuber community, in the VTuber space, that I think at some point is going to enter a transitional phase. Right now, VTubing is not mainstream. It's not. It's very specific type of content that you either enjoy or don't enjoy. But I think what's important is that with time, things like that we considered or people consider cringe now will not be cringe in the future. The same thing with anime. Granted, anime is still seen as cringe by some people. Now it's a whole different topic that I'm not gonna go into. But like, you get what I'm saying. And I think in general, Burnt Peanut, he won. And if you feel that he shouldn't have, you have a right to feel that way, And I think the people who are happy that he won should also be happy that he won. I just didn't understand why he had to say it like that. And now other people, especially certain people who probably watch his content, will probably don't realize that he's joking or he's doing it as a bit and put on more hate on the VTuber community. I think that's where like that part of it is just really where like that it will sting. That's where it will sting more, because I think VTubers are great. They create content that most in real life streamers or content creators won't be able to do, right? And I think everything can coexist with each other. We don't have to argue about what is a VTuber, what is a better type of content on YouTube. We can all coexist together. And I think we need to realize this sooner rather than later. And I do believe that VTubing, while it is kind of in a rough patch right now, especially because within the VTuber community, it's just, there's a lot of weird things happening, especially in the indie scene. I think we can all coexist. We can all coexist, and I think that's what we should aim for. We shouldn't be hating each other. We shouldn't be making like comments or even jokes, that we shouldn't be taken seriously, but there will be people who will, and it will just create more heated arguments, more debates, and just more constant conflict within the YouTuber space, within the VTuber space. And just, we should all be able to coexist together and watch whatever we want. I truly believe that VTubers will become more mainstream, and all of this stigma behind VTubers will go away at some point. Right now it's just really rough. Right now it's just really hard. And, people who, like I said, who watch anime in the 90s experience that. And it can result into a lot of weird things in the near future. But I think I think that as as a VTuber fan, I'm not mad that Burnt Peanut won. But I can also understand why VTubers and VTuber fans are not happy. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think about this whole drama, and whether or not you agree or disagree with me, that's perfectly fine. I think at the end of the day, everything can coexist. So thank you so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see more of my content, and I'll see you guys next time, okay? Bye-bye.